Hello guys. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Ibiniyi Obikoya, also known as Hybeecodes. I am a software engineer and a lover of God. On this channel, we talk about technology, lifestyle, and faith. So if this sounds interesting to you, please make sure to subscribe to the channel, like the videos, share the videos, and also share your comments. And if you're a returning subscriber, thank you so much for coming back. I really appreciate it. So quick note, this video is going to be more of freestyle. I don't really have like any serious script prepared, so I just want to like freestyle it and see how well it comes out. So just bear with me. I've often gotten messages from people asking me like how I got to Paystack. Obviously right now I'm not a Paystack engineer, but I used to work at Paystack, and a lot of people reach out to me asking me how did I do it, how did I get into Paystack, what was the interview process like, did I apply directly from the job portal, or did I get a referral? So generally there are a lot of questions like about like how I got into Paystack, and I just thought, okay, let me make a video on my journey to Paystack. And the reason why I'm doing this is so that you guys can see exactly what it takes to get a job at Paystack, and also if you are looking to get to Paystack, maybe something in this video might actually help you out on your journey. So if this sounds interesting, keep watching. Okay, so for some of us that might not know what Paystack is a fintech company, although I think a lot of people already know what Paystack is. So Paystack is a payment company, one of the top payment companies in Nigeria. And let me not go too deep into what Paystack does, because this video is not sponsored by Paystack and I'm not trying to advertise Paystack. I'm just here to share my experience. So yes, how did I get into Paystack? So I think for me, right from when I was in school, I think around 300 level, 400 level, I have always been a Paystack fanboy. Like, and what I mean is that like Paystack is one of those companies that, oh, okay, if you get a job there, you are like a superstar. Honestly, I did not really know what Paystack does as at that time. It's just because, okay, most of my friends like knew about Paystack, and as at that time, everyone was shouting Paystack here, Paystack there, Paystack here, Paystack there, and I was like, okay, if everybody is saying Paystack, me too, I want to work at Paystack. So that was how it all started, right? I was just like very interested in, okay, getting into Paystack. I didn't really know what Paystack does as at that time. So fast forward to after I graduated from school, then I got a job at a fintech company, at another fintech company actually, right? And that's Global Accelerex. For those of you that know, Global Accelerex is a company in Lagos, right? It's also a fintech company, although they focus more on POS payment. So yes, I got a job at Global Accelerex, and at that time, one of my friends actually got a job at Paystack, right, straight out of school. So that was like a very nice thing, right? I mean, you get a job out of school, I mean, straight out of school into Paystack. So yes, I mean, in case like I wasn't like clear enough, Paystack was like a dream company for me then. There was no way to even apply to Paystack, right? Paystack was this very exclusive company that maybe the only way you can get into Paystack is maybe if you know someone at Paystack. Suddenly, out of the blues, my friend like reached out to me, and let me mention that I usually like disturb my friend. I mean, his name is Arinze, by the way. I always disturb him to let me know if there's any opportunity or open role at Paystack. And then the day came, right? So the day came and he reached out to me that day and he asked if I was still interested in Paystack. And I was like, sure now. I mean, who would not be interested in Paystack? And then he asked me to send my resume. So I shared my resume, and that was how my journey to Paystack started. So I would walk you guys through like the interview process, right? I will let you know what the interview process entailed, at least up until the time I left Paystack, right? I don't know what the interview process really looks like at the moment, but I'm going to try to share as much information as possible. So yes, let's get into the interview experience. So like I said, my friend asked me to send my resume, and I did. And then I think about a week after, an engineering manager reached out to me from Paystack. I'm going to try to see if I can get screenshots for some of the emails I got, and if I can't, well, I guess you just have to take my word for it. All right, so yes, so I got reached out to by an engineering manager from Paystack, and she sent me an email telling me that my friend referred me, and they would love to interview me for a back-end engineering position at Paystack. So I was super excited that yes, it is finally happening. So basically, as at that time, this is what the interview process at Paystack looks like, right? So the first thing is you have a phone interview, usually with an engineering manager most times, or maybe the VP of engineering, depending on the role you are applying for. So the phone call interview is usually just to get to know you on a personal level, right? So usually what happens is whatever it is you've put on your resume, whatever it is you've claimed to know, right? The person you are interviewing with, right? Or the person that is interviewing you will try to validate some of those information, right? And at times they might even ask about your career journey, right? How you started and how you got to where you are. So, I mean, for me, it's usually a fun discussion. If I would give a tip for the phone call interview, I would say just relax, be calm. As long as you did not lie on your resume, you should be fine, right? So yeah, that's like the first stage. If everything goes well in the first interview, which is the phone interview, then you'll be sent a technical assessment. Mind you, this interview process is strictly for engineers, right? Front and back end engineers, right? So I don't know what it looks like for maybe designers. I'm not sure. So after the phone call interview, then you'll be sent a technical assessment. So the basic idea of the technical assessment is to see how good you actually are, right? To see how well you write your code, to see how you structure your code, to see the kind of design decisions you make, the kind of architectural decisions you make under certain circumstances, right? Because I remember that the question I was given was very open-ended, right? So they gave me a particular question and then asked me to implement it however I wanted, right? So it was completely open-ended. They didn't tell me exactly how to implement it. So moving forward, the email did not give a particular timeline for the project, but I mean, usually you shouldn't spend more than 1 week, max an extra few days after 1 week on a technical assessment, right? That is just my own conventional rule. So I spent like 1 week on that project, and trust me, like in this project, I put everything I knew into it. Every single concept I've learned in my backend engineering career, I went to dig them out, and I was trying to like put everything inside just so that they can see that, okay, this guy is not here to joke, right? Obviously, you don't want to mess up, right, at the technical assessment stage. So I did my best. I really tried my best, and I put my all into that particular assessment test, and then I submitted. So after submission, the engineering manager reached out to me, and I think she told me that the engineers would review my code and reach out to me once they are done. So that took a while, right? I think it took like another 1 week. I'm not sure whether it's maybe 2 weeks. I think it's 1 week, right? So after 1 week, I got another email telling me that the engineers loved my implementation and they are willing to like proceed to the next stage. This is my best step in the interview. This is where I usually shine. And the reason for this is that usually when I do my technical assessment, there's certain concept that I have learned, and honestly, maybe I shouldn't have used them, but I try to use them regardless, so that the interviewer can actually ask me questions about those concepts, and then I'll just burst out and I'll just start shining, you get. So like I was saying, I was told the engineers loved me and they were willing to move on to the next stage. And in this case, the next stage was a technical interview. Now, usually when you have a technical interview right after a technical assessment round, the technical interview first tries to review your implementation in the technical assessments round. So I knew this as at that time. So I started going through my implementation again, because like I said, right, I didn't want to mess up this opportunity, right? I didn't want to mess up that opportunity. So I was trying my best. Everything I wrote in my code, I made sure that I could explain every single line of my code, right? And I even went online, tried to search for related questions that could be hacked. And I was trying to get answers to these questions. I think I prepped for like 3 or 4 days for this particular interview. So one other thing I do as part of my preparation for interviews is I try to look up all my interviewers. So there are situations where you can actually see the names of the interviewers, but whenever I get the chance to see the names of my interviewers, I just try to look them up on LinkedIn. I try to get some information about them that could serve as common interest or shared interest between us, right? Because I find out that it goes a long way when you and your interviewer are on the same page personally, even before you get into the technical stuff. So I was supposed to be interviewed by 3 senior engineers, and when I checked out these guys, they were tech leads. Or more, I was almost sweating because I knew that, okay, number one, being a tech lead is not beans, right? You must be like incredibly good, right? And like excellent for you to be a tech lead. Now, being a tech lead at a company like Paystack, hey God, I just knew that, okay, wait, I need to actually prepare very well for this thing, because I was expecting them to really drill me hard. And they did. They really did. So one other thing I tried to do was to have a list of questions to ask them, right? Most times when I ask questions, I try to ask personal questions, right, from these interviewers. Most times I don't usually ask questions about the company. I ask them questions about their own career. Honestly, as someone that has interviewed a few people, I think interviewers love it when you ask them certain level of personal questions, right, about their career. They are usually very willing to share. So the technical interview day came, and it was supposed to be, I think it was 1 hour or maybe 1.5 hours. I can't really remember. And so, like I said, there were 3 tech leads on the call, and I tried to be very confident, right? One of the things that I think I love doing is being very confident in interviews, and I think it goes a long way in making an impression, right, in that interview. If you are always fidgeting and you are always nervous, right, it might actually affect your performance. In most cases, it will affect your performance in the interview. So yes, the interview day came, and we started with my technical assessment. They asked certain questions, and I was just giving those answers back to back. And again, like I said, I was answering these questions with confidence, right? Not with pride, but with confidence. There's a way you can answer a question with confidence without showing that you know too much, right? So it's a very thin line, but I didn't always get the right answers, right? But the ones that I knew, I actually really knew them, right? So and I think I made a bit of an impression, right, during that interview with the way I was answering certain questions. And I think one other thing that helped me, right, during that particular interview was the foundational knowledge of computing that I knew, right? I knew a lot about data structures and algorithms. I knew quite a bit about databases in terms of optimizing databases, even though I hadn't really optimize a database, right? But I read a lot. I watch a lot of system design videos. So, I mean, these things actually helped me a lot. It showed that I actually have like some very solid foundational knowledge. So I think that also helped my case. So I answered all the questions well, and then it was my turn to ask my questions. And like I said, I had already prepared questions to ask. So I asked my questions, and that was it. But I would say that I actually felt good at the end of that interview. So after the technical interview stage, I think about another week, the engineering manager reached out to me, sent me an email, and said that the engineers loved me, that I did very well in my technical interview. I was so happy, like, oh my, this is really happening. So she then scheduled me for the last interview. So yes, at Paystack, the last interview, I don't know now, but at then, right, the last interview was with Ezra, right? For those of us that know, Ezra is the CTO of Paystack. So I was very excited. I was very eager to meet Ezra one-on-one. So we scheduled the interview. I think it was 1 week after. So I had a chat with Ezra, and honestly, Ezra was very cool. He didn't ask any technical questions. He just wanted to know me on a personal level. Now, this interview with Ezra, in most cases, right, and also in this case, it's called it's usually called culture fit, right? Culture fit. And what usually happens is they ask you questions. They ask you behavioral questions like, oh, what would you do in this situation, right? Situational questions. If you are pissed off by a colleague, how would you handle it, right? Have you ever been in a situation where you had to go against your tech lead or go against the management, how did you handle it? Things like that. So they ask you things like that. And that was pretty much what the chat with Ezra was all about. And also I got to ask Ezra some questions that I've been meaning to ask about Paystack, and also some questions about his personal life. So basically, right, for me, the tip I would have for the culture fit interview is that try as much as possible to show who you really are, right? Hopefully you are not a bad person, but try as much as possible to show who you really are and try to make connection, try to connect with whoever it is or the people that are interviewing you. I think it goes a long way, because the whole idea is for them to perceive you as a good person and also for them to like you, right, as someone that can actually join the team or the company. So my chat with Ezra went very, very well. And I was just waiting for the response. I think after like 2 days after I spoke with or had a chat with Ezra, the engineering manager reached out to me and then told me that Paystack would be willing to move forward with an offer. Hey God, when I saw that email, I was just jumping, right? I was in my room. I was so happy. It was a dream come true. Like, finally, this is happening, right? So, and then we had to go through a couple of discussions about salary negotiations. And I remember she asked me how much I was expecting. In fact, honestly, to be honest with you guys, I wasn't really like so into the money. I was just into the fact that I'm going to get to work at Paystack. And the reason for this is that, like, usually, like, when you hear that someone worked at Paystack or someone works at Paystack, you just assume that that person is very good at what they do, right? And I think maybe the reason for that is maybe the level of excellence that Paystack actually puts in, like, their products, right? So everyone just assumes that Paystack engineers are good. And honestly, I can tell you from experience, right? At Paystack, I worked with some of the smartest people in this world, right? So yes, Paystack engineers are like, they are geniuses. So yes, I was very, very, very happy to join Paystack. So we had a chat around salary negotiations. We had a little back and forth, and yes, eventually we came to an agreement. And yes, I was now expecting my official offer letter. And then I think I waited for like 2 or 3 weeks. I was almost dying. Like, would send this offer now, send this thing, let me sign, right? I kept reaching out. Oh, hello, what's up? I haven't gotten my offer. Apparently, the person that was supposed to prepare the offer was on leave. I think she was the head of HR, and her signature was needed, and she was on leave. I wanted to die. That these people, and like in my mind, I was praying that this person should come back from leave now. Let me quickly sign this thing before Paystack changes their mind. Though, you get? But yeah, eventually, I think like after 2 weeks, I got my official offer letter, and so yes, that was how I got into Paystack. So let me share like 3 tips that I think 3 lessons that I learned from that experience, because looking back, I think there are some things that really, really helped me, right? The first one is relationships, right? Remember that I said that I didn't apply directly. I got referred by a friend that worked at Paystack as at that time. Because for companies like Paystack, most times, Paystack specifically, right? Paystack doesn't really put engineering roles out there for people to apply, right? So what Paystack does at times is the current employees would refer people that they know that are very, very capable. And then at times I've seen engineering managers reach out to candidates. So I would say that prioritize relationships, right? If I did not have a relationship with someone that worked at Paystack or someone that eventually got into Paystack, I don't know if I would have gotten the opportunity to work at Paystack. That is number one. Then the second one, which is number 2, is always prioritize or always seek referrals over applying on a job site, right? I think we all know this. This goes without saying, right? If you have the opportunity to ask for a referral, honestly, just go for it, right? Even after Paystack, at times there was a time I was job hunting and I wanted to like get a job abroad. I didn't know anybody. I didn't know anybody like in that company. So what I did was just I went online. I went on LinkedIn and I just started chatting people up, right? I went to check the list of people that actually worked at that company, and I tried to look for like a Nigerian, right? I looked for a Nigerian, and like funny enough, the guy was also like a Yoruba guy. So I just reached out to the guy. We spoke for like a week, and then I just asked him that, oh, I'm looking to like apply to your company. Would you be like willing to refer me? And he was very, very, very happy to refer me, right? So yes, always prioritize referral, right? Don't stress yourself if you can just reach out to somebody, right? I know this is not something that happens like a lot, right? And even for people that try, you can get ghosted. But I would say still try and still be persistent, right? Try to get referrals rather than just applying. And maybe you can also do both, right? You can apply and also still reach out to someone for referral. Then the last one, which is like the third tip I want to share, is always aim for the highest level of achievement, right? I would say that one of the things that made it quite possible for me to even like combat Paystack's technical interview was the fact that as at that time, right, I was, I think like 6 months or a year before that time, I was constantly applying to FANG companies. By FANG, I mean like I was applying to Microsoft, Amazon, Goldman Sachs, and some of these very, very top big companies, right? And I've done like a couple of interviews with them, even though I was still like less experienced, but I had, number one, I had a lot of interview experience. Then number two, like the concept of data structures and algorithms, right? That's something that Paystack also looks at, honestly. And honestly, it was easy for me to just showcase that, because I mean, there's no way you can apply to a company like Microsoft, Google, or Amazon without having a solid grasp of data structure and algorithms, right? So yes, I would say that don't limit yourself, right? Always apply for very, very big companies, right? Because at times, even if you don't get those very big companies, there might be a very, very solid company right around you that you might end up getting the job. So yes, that's one other thing that I think really, really helped me. Lastly, I would like to say that one very, very important thing that also contributed to my success in getting like a job at Paystack was God, right? God has always been there for me. I'm sure there are people that are a lot better than I was, right? Or even a lot better than I am right now, and they still haven't gotten that opportunity to work at a company like Paystack. I think it's just God's grace and mercy that also contributed, right? As much as I did my own part, God also helped me achieve what I was able to achieve. So yes, if you are hoping to do the same, do your work, but also don't neglect God. Don't neglect the place of prayer and the mercy of God. So if you have been wondering, okay, how did this guy get into Paystack? I hope I've been able to enlighten you. And if you are looking to apply to Paystack or get into Paystack anytime soon or even in the future, I hope I've been able to provide some form of encouragement, and I hope these tips I've shared will also be of help to you. So yes, if you are interested in applying to Paystack, please go on and apply. If you have someone that you know that works there, ask for a referral. You might just get lucky and get into the company. So that will be all I'll be sharing in this video. Thank you so much, guys, for sticking around till now. I hope this video was interesting. If it was, please give it a thumbs up. Like the video. You must like the video today. It's today you will like this video. I'm not leaving here until you like this video. So please like the video, drop your comment. If you have some tips you'd like to share with people, also please drop them in the comment section. And if you are not subscribed to the channel, please and please, should I kneel down? Right, I'm going to send a picture of me kneeling down. I will kneel down. Please and please subscribe to the channel. It's not so easy, like aside work, also coming here to like make a video. So just help me out. So subscribe to the channel and also share with your friends. I'll see you guys in the next video. Until then, keep believing, keep growing, and keep glowing. Peace.